go for the final time. We are free! Ultimate contact! A terrible crash!
We're in it.
The chase for the Snickers Cup Series Championship continues on here on the SRA Sports Channel as we get ready for chase race number 3, elimination race number 1. After today, the 16 drivers that started out the chase for the championship will dwindle down to only 12 heading into the second round of the championship battle. Today we will have 4 eliminations. And right now, there are several drivers that are in deep, deep trouble and really, in all honesty, need a victory to be able to make sure they do not get eliminated this early on in the battle for the Snickers Cup Series Championship. And we are here today at a track that is known for its amazing style of racing, its competitive style of racing, and it doesn't matter what kind of car you're in. You could be in an Indy car or you could be in a Snickers Cup Series car, but everybody when they come here, they want to do one thing: win the race and kiss the yard of bricks. This is the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we're getting ready for 24 laps of racing. Now, as I said, there are 16 drivers. We're going to be cutting it down to 12 drivers after today's event, but one driver comes into this race completely worry-free from being eliminated, and that would be Jessica Shelton, who picked up the victory last week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Because of her victory, that automatically locks her into the next round of the chase for the championship. So Shelton, who actually by her win last week jumped up to the top of the points lead in the standings, in the chase standings, it really doesn't matter what kind of a day she has today. She can DNF. She could park if she wanted to. Complete one lap and park. Doesn't matter. She's moving on to the next round. However, for other drivers, they're going to be on pins and needles today. They're going to have to work out strategy to gain track position to come away with a strong finish. And a number of those drivers that are either near or in the danger zone would be the following. Dylan Poteet. He did manage to come away with a solid top 5 run last week at Canadian Tire, moved himself up in the standings to 8th place. However, in the point standings, according to his distance between 12th place, he's still only 14 points ahead, so he still could fall out with a poor run today. Danny Wells, his teammate, is another driver who could fall outside of the top 12 in points. He comes into this race 9th in the standings, and he is only a total of 20, no, not 20, I meant to say 11 points away from that 12th spot. John Cittadino, he picked up a couple spots last week in the standings, but he is only 6 points ahead of 12th place. Trent Dunham, who really was a strong car early on this season, kind of fallen apart for him here as the chase has waned on. Trent Dunham is only 4 spots ahead of 12th, and then Austin LaPlante, who is currently situated in the 12th in the 12th position. He is currently, right now, only 2 spots ahead of 13th in the standings. Then if you're looking further down, you got Tim Walsh, who is right now scored 13th in points. He dropped 3 spots in the standings after a poor run last week. As we said, only 2 points behind LaPlante for that coveted 12th spot. Cody Lamas is only a total of 7 points back, as he is 13th in points. Richard Johnson is 12 points back. He is 15th in the stands, and Brandon Gonzalez, it may look like our defending champion may not even be in the running past the first round of the chase for the championship. He is dead last, 16th out of 16 chase drivers, and he has a gap of 22 points to make up between himself and Austin LaPlante. So for Brandon Gonzalez, really, he's got to win today in order to become a back-to-back Snickers Cup Series champion, or even just to move on to the next round. As Stephen Pollard III starts on the pole position today, the Volkswagen Jetta, still looking for his first win of the season alongside of Jacob Lawler. We saw Jessica Shelton pick up win number 3 last week, while Jacob Lawler wants to pick up win number 4 and automatically lock himself into the next round of the chase for the championship. Dougie Shears, he's going to line up in the 3rd position. You can see some more chasers starting up near the front there, including Sean Galligan, our points leader Jessica Shelton. You got James Qualls, Dylan Poteet, and Danny Wells all in this shot, as well as Cody Lamas in the 48. So the drivers we'll really keep a close watch on today would be Poteet, Wells, Citadino, Dunham, and LaPlante. They could fall out of the top 12. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Walsh, Lamas, Richard Johnson, Brandon Gonzalez to see if they can work their way into the top 12 or maybe get a victory here today. He was supposed to join me in the commentator's booth for this race, keeping on a long tradition, but unfortunately work schedule's getting in the way. So we're going to have him be our Grand Marshal for today and give us the command to fire the engines. Please welcome the driver of the number 2 Ford out of Young Motorsports, Dylan Young, ready to give us those most famous words in motorsports. Let's go down trackside and get that command right now.
Drivers, start your engines.
Pace car peels off. We will show your starting lineup. Chasers highlighted in yellow as usual, and after today we will have 4 drivers that will not have their names highlighted in yellow for the remainder of the season. They will not have the yellow banner atop their windshield, and they will not have the yellow splitter on their car. So, as we're getting ready to go racing here, let's talk about Indianapolis. This is a track that really brings about 2 different fundamental characteristics. First off, super high speeds. That's why they come here in IndyCar. A lot of high speeds with those kind of race cars, and no different here with the Snickers Cup Series cars. And another thing is, this track, you've got to pick the right places to make moves. We've seen a lot of drivers, they'll make moves in the turn 1 area heading into turn 2, and a lot of times they end up making them in the wrong areas. This track does not have a lot of banking, and so with that being said, drivers that enter the corner too fast are going to slide up. And we've seen a lot of times here at this track that the high speeds and the way that the banking is with the speed that sometimes drivers carry into the corners, there are often some very violent wrecks. This part they're entering into right here in turn 3, just a very short little straightaway before you get to turn 4. And a lot of times we'll see drivers in turn 1 or 3 get turned and slide right back up the racetrack in turns 2 or 4, and it causes a mighty big pileup. We've also seen some incidents here out of turn number 4 with drivers trying to get to pit road. We'll see if pit road plays a factor in this, and we'll see if maybe that could cause some problems for these drivers who are going to have to get it back down to the pit road speed in order to avoid getting penalized if this thing goes into a long green flag run. But here we go. 24 laps of racing await us. Stephen Pollard III sees the green, and we are underway here in chase race number 3 at Indianapolis. Stephen Pollard III, he didn't jump the gun there. It's just Jacob Lawler didn't get going. Lawler could not cross the start-finish line ahead of Stephen Pollard III, and Pollard set the pace, and that's going to get him out in front. Dougie Shears moves by into 2nd. That'll make him the highest running chaser now, with Lawler back to 3rd, Norman into 4th, and Sean Galligan will move to the 5th position. Now the battle is on between those 2 chasers, Dougie Shears, Jacob Lawler. Well, Lawler, you saw right there, he was within striking distance, and then when they entered into 3, Lawler had to back out. We have sunny conditions, which means that the slick track is going to be even slicker here. And now Lawler going to try and get the run down the front straightaway here. Heading into 1, first lap of the day, going to be led by Stephen Pollard III, as now the battle's on for 2nd. Lawler to the inside of Dougie Shears. Jacob Lawler dropped 6 spots in the standings last week and fell all the way down to the 7th place in points. Dougie Shears actually had a pretty dismal run last week as well, dropped 3 spots down to 6th. So both of these drivers trying to make a comeback here. There you have Sean Galligan, currently scored in the 5th position. Galligan ended up having a somewhat decent race last week. He's actually, his last 2 races to start off the chase have just been outside of the top 10. Somewhere around 11th and 12th, both at Chicagoland and at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Now today, running inside of the top 5. So Galligan looking looking like he's going to be in a good situation to move into the next round. He came into this race with a nice 28-point cushion between himself and 12th in the standings, Austin LaPlante, and with a good qualifying run, looks like Galligan will be moving on to the next round. Remember, Galligan ended up making his way into the chase by winning the last regular season race at Rockingham, North Carolina, and just barely made his way into the top 30 in the standings, too. There's DJ Curtis. Now, last week, DJ Curtis was the highest finishing of the rookies between himself and Austin Mongold. Helped him to cut down the points lead Mongold has on him, and right now he's running the highest of the rookies today. So DJ Curtis definitely making a case for himself to try and be Rookie of the Year, as the momentum has seemed to shift from Mongold to DJ Curtis in the last couple of weeks. And we have a battle for the lead that now is over. Jacob Lawler moved to the top position. Michael Norman followed him to second. Now Stephen Powell the third falls back into the third position. And that's an important lap led there for Jacob Lawler, because that's a bonus point that's going to go towards him. So now the gap that he had coming into this race over 12th place, which was only a total of 13 points, now has grown to 14 points. So that's going to help to widen that cushion a little bit for Lawler in his attempt to make it into the next round. Let's find the rest of our chasers, as we've got like a 6-car breakaway here at the front. There you got Danny Wells. Now he's actually going for 7th off of Pichu London. Right now he's scored in 8th place. Danny Wells last week didn't exactly have the best of runs at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. A lot of other chasers had worse. But Danny Wells right now just trying to stay up here in the top 10. This is exactly what he needs to do. The fact that he's running ahead of some other drivers such as Cole Daly, James Qualls, as well as his teammate Dylan Poteet, who are all real close to him in the standings. This is certainly good for Danny Wells. Helps to put a bit of a cushion between himself and that 12th position in the standings, as he will move by Pichu London for position number 7. London now back into 8th. I'll tell you what, Pichu London, he's really been close these last couple of weeks of picking up a victory. Just has not been able to close the deal. Last week, ended up starting on the pole position, led the first few laps of the race, but as soon as Jessica Shelton got by him, Pichu London was not able to do anything with her and ended up finishing the race in 2nd place. But his finishes have gotten a lot better, that's for sure, but he certainly is still trying to find victory lane here in his final Snickers Cup Series season. Next chaser's actually back in the 13th position. This is a driver who does need a good run too. Cody Lamas coming into this race outside of the top 12. He scored 14th of the 16 chasers coming into this race. And Cody really needs this to happen here. He needs a good run, otherwise he's going to be eliminated in the first round. Now he is running ahead of Tim Walsh, he's running ahead of Austin LaPlante, and he's running ahead of Trent Dunham and John Cittadino, which is a good thing for him right now, because he's got to get every point he possibly can. As I look at the scoring coming into this race, he was 5 points behind Walsh, he was a total of 7 points behind LaPlante, 9 points behind Dunham, and 11 points behind Cittadino. So he's got to get up there a little bit closer to the front of the field, I would think, in order to really put himself in a good cushioned position inside the top 12. But right now, this is at least a good start. There's Austin LaPlante, who comes in that critical 12th position. Right now, he is 14th on the scoring monitor. And LaPlante really, he's the bubble driver right now, and a lot of pressure on that team, as Austin LaPlante's trying to make it into the next round in the Richard Petty Motorsports 43. There's James Qualls, actually a clump of chasers right here. Qualls, Poteet, and Shelton. James Qualls, I can't say he's worry-free coming into this race, because he does have a 16-point advantage over 12th place, but right now he is in a somewhat good situation with the fact that he is running up around drivers that are behind him in the standings, like Poteet, like Wells, like LaPlante, like Lamas. So this is a good situation, a good spot for him to be in at the current moment. He's currently in the 16th position. There's Dylan Poteet, whose solid run last week moved him up in the standings outside of the danger zone. As a matter of fact, the only driver last week that moved out of the danger zone of the 4 drivers that came in 13th through 16th in points last week for Canadian Tire was Dylan Poteet. Poteet was at the time, I believe, scored in the 15th position, and he worked his way up to 8th in the standings. The other 3 drivers were Cody Lamas, Richard Johnson, Brandon Gonzalez. They still are down 14th through 16th in the standings. And then Tim Walsh's poor run last week dropped him down into the danger zone as well. Jump further back here as Michael Norman's the leader. We haven't been keeping track of the scoring monitor, but we're trying to look at our chasers here early on in this race. There's Jessica Shelton, comes in worry-free after her victory. She's locked into the next round, so Jessica Shelton right now riding around in the 20th position. We drop further back. There's Ryan Acosta. Now, Ryan Acosta came into this race second in the stands, only 4 points back from Jessica Shelton. So Ryan Acosta's in a great position right now. Came in 34 points ahead of 12th in the stands, Austin LaPlante. So I think that barring a DNF, Ryan Acosta is going to make it into the next round of the chase for the championship. There is Tim Walsh. Now, we talked about Austin LaPlante being a bubble driver. Well, Tim Walsh is the same thing for him. He came in only 2 points behind Austin LaPlante in the standings, and he scored 13th in the points. So he needs to get up there to that 43, or he needs to be ahead of Trent Dunham, John Cittadino to maybe knock one of those two out of the top 12 in the point stands. Right now scored in the 31st position. There's the defending champ, Randy Gonzalez. Now, we said he basically needs to win. Well, right now he's mired back in the 34th position. So you got to think that based on the fact they didn't get good track position via qualifying, they've got to be trying to work out some kind of pit strategy they'll be able to use when and if these drivers do go under green flag pit stop conditions. There is John Cittadino. Now, what Cittadino needs right now is he's got to get up there and get by the machine of Tim Walsh, because right now John Cittadino could drop outside of the top 12 in points. He only came in 4 points ahead of Austin LaPlante in the standings. So Cittadino, this is not good for him. Two-time Snickers Cup Series champ, the winner of the LCQ race, right now scored 36th. I think he just took 35th place away from Bob Jones. There's Cole Daly. Now, I'm not certain what happened to these guys that are all straggling back here. You got Cole Daly in the 88. Daly came into this race 5th in the point stands, actually tied for 4th with about a 14-point buffer between himself, making that 16 points between himself and Austin LaPlante, but this is certainly not the run he needs right now. I don't know if this is trying to stay out of trouble and wait for the green flag pit stops or what, as he goes down to the apron here. Do we have pit stops going on? We do. Yep, apparently waiting for the pit stops is no longer. The only other chaser that we had to cover was, I believe, Trent Dunham and Richard Johnson, and there they are. Richard actually staying out that lap. As Michael Norman leads most of the leaders down, Dylan Pote decided to stay out and lead a lap, so a valuable bonus point there for the 31 car. As I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be a 4-tire stop, and this is just around the midway point, which leads me to wonder, are these drivers going to be able to make it the rest of the way? These drivers coming in lap 11, the others will probably come in on lap 12, which is just around the halfway point, so we may end up having some drivers running out of fuel in the last few laps. The battle was on for the lead there between Dylan Pote, Chris Dollerton, and now the both of them are going to come to pit lane. There's Chris Washer, William Duncan, a number of others that decided to stay out. I'm trying to see what chasers decided to stay out. And it looks like the only chasers that stayed out that lap were 3 of them. Dylan Pote, Tim Walsh, and Richard Johnson. So interesting, only 3 chasers staying out an extra lap there. Dylan Pote, though, that valuable lap led. Oh, I think we just had another driver stay out and lead a lap, and that was Ryan Acosta. Yes, Ryan Acosta stayed out that time. The only driver left to stay out. And that's a valuable lap led for him. Now, he basically came into this race, I can't say locked in, but with a very good chance of moving into the next round. But Ryan Acosta rolling the dice here and leading at least a lap to get a bonus point. As we saw, he was mired way back in the running order. And like we said, some drivers were going to use these green flag pit stops to roll the dice, get themselves track position and whatnot. And now Ryan Acosta will be the last of the drivers to come down pit road. Also, he comes down a very clean and quiet pit road, too, so not much of a chance of him getting his fenders bent up, so maybe some pretty good strategy there. And we know now that these drivers can stretch it at least about 13 laps on fuel, which would lead me to believe that these drivers now can make it the rest of the way without having to come to pit road. It'll be a 4-tire stop for Ryan Acosta. I don't think he'll come out with the lead, though. I'd be very surprised if he did. Pulls out of his pit box, trying to look up on the top right and see if anybody's going to bypass him here on the front straightaway. Nobody yet. And there they go. Yep, there's the leaders going on by. Jacob Lawler is the new leader, with Michael Norman behind him in second. So Jacob Lawler trying to pick up what would be his 4th win of the season. Jacob Lawler has never won 4 races in a single season. As a matter of fact, he had never won 3 races in a single season after he took the checkered flag a few weeks ago at Champs-Élysées. It's been a career year for that 5 team and Jacob Lawler, former champion. Michael Norman right behind him. And you got to think Michael Norman's going to be racing Lawler hard here. I don't think Norman cares if Jacob Lawler's a champion contender in the chase. Michael Norman has not won a race yet this season, and he was close near the beginning of the season, but the Tweenix drivers always seemed to be one step ahead of him. Then he hit a real bad cold streak, really had struggling of trying to get inside the top 10 each race. Finds himself mired way down in the point standings too. He actually lost a spot to Bob Jones last week in the standings after Canadian Tire. So Michael Norman trying to find victory lane, and like I said, he's very good at these high-speed racetracks, and he's going to do everything in his power to get by Jacob Lawler and win this race. But Lawler has been really good. When Lawler gets out in front, especially the last couple of weeks, it's very hard for other drivers to be able to pass him. Lawler's a very good defensive driver. These laps that he's leading are just helping his case and moving into the next round. And certainly a good run, definitely what he needed after he didn't qualify very well last week at Canadian Tire and came away with a rather dismal finish as well. Another lap led by him, and that's going to be a total of 10 laps to go that he was just shown by the flagman. Let's give you a full field rundown here of where everybody's running after the cycle of the green flag pit stops. Lawler is the leader. Michael Norman is in second. Stephen Paul third. Our pole sitter still very much in this in third place. Danny Wells just moved to fourth. He is the second highest running chaser, and then you got some more chasers here. Fifth place just went to Sean Galligan as he bypassed Dougie Shears, who's now back to sixth. Seventh place, how about Charles Jackson? Great run there for the Skittles Toyota. Eighth place now will be held by Joshua Collard. Ninth place is Anthony McCurry, and Sean Henley just lost 2 spots and drops back to 10th. Bubble driver Austin LaPlante, this is a great spot for him to be in 11th place. He actually just ran his fastest lap of the event as well, with a 50.714. 12th place would be Chris Dollerton, our winner from a couple of weeks ago. As a matter of fact, Chris Dollerton, he won Chicagoland. He ended up having a solid run of, I believe, a top 10 well, it was a top 10. I'm trying to remember if it was a top 5, though. I think it was just a top 10 at Montreal, or Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and now he's running 12th place here today at Indy. This guy has really turned up the heat on his good finishes in the last couple of weeks ever since the chase began. 14th, or make that 13th place, that will be Pichu London. 14th is Charles Samper. 15th place is going to be Dylan Poteet, who rolled the dice, stayed out a bit, and now he finds himself just inside the top 15. 16th is Joshua Michaels, and then there's a whole host of other drivers back here. Let's see where these chasers cross the line last. Cody Lamas was 18th last time by. Brandon Gonzalez 23rd. James Qualls 24th. There's Ryan Acosta 27th. Jessica Shelton in 30th. Trent Dunham moves his way up to 33rd. That's better than where he was running before the pit stops. Tim Walsh is right now in 37th. John Cittadino scored 34th. There's Richard Johnson back in 39th position. And wow, 42nd is where they're scoring Cole Daly. This is not good for that 88 car. Cole Daly could be close to elimination here in this race as he is scored in dead last. That is not good, and as the updating scoring, Richard Johnson's 39th, John Cittadino 37th, Tim Walsh in 36th. So I can't say it's for sure, but this is good for Cody Lamas, and it's also good for, well, potentially Brandon Gonzalez, who's just outside the top 20 the last time we looked. It's also good for Austin LaPlante, who now is scored in the 10th position. LaPlante now may have gotten himself out of the danger zone because he's running much better than Trent Dunham. He's running much better than John Cittadino. So LaPlante, I believe now, if the thing were to finish the way it is, if this field is to finish the way it's currently running, LaPlante is right now out of danger. Drivers that I would say would be in danger now could potentially be Tim Walsh, John Cittadino, and Cole Daly. Let's actually work the calculators a little bit here as we're watching Michael Norman continue to try and get by Jacob Lawler. Now, Walsh coming into this race was in that 13th spot. Cody Lamas is running fairly well. Cody is currently scored in 24th, so he's running okay. In order for him to bypass John Cittadino in the standings, he'd have to be running 11 spots better, which means Cittadino would have to be running in 36th or worse. And Cittadino's running in 37th, so Cittadino right now is out. Cody Lamas is in. As far as Brandon Gonzalez, he needs a miracle. He's 21st right now. He would have to be running ahead of, let's see who'd be a driver that he could knock out would maybe be Trent Dunham. And he was 24 points behind. There's no way right now that he would be able to displace Trent Dunham out of the top 12. Dunham right now in 34th, which is only 13 spots behind where Gonzalez is running. So right now, it's looking like it's basically between Cittadino and Cody Lamas as to who's going to make it into the next round. Now, Cody Lamas also has a possible opportunity of getting by Cole Daly. He came in 23 spots behind Daly. Now, with where Cody is scored of 23rd, that is impossible right now. If Daly finishes dead last, though, and Cody Lamas can work his way up into the top 18 before this race is over, then Daly would be out and Lamas would be in. So Daly and Cittadino both could get displaced, one or the other, by Cody Lamas, depending on where they finish this race. So it's basically going to come down between the teammates out of Hendrick Daly Motorsports, the 48 and the 88, as well as the Cittadino Ed Motorsports Chevrolet of the 72, as to who is going to fall out. It looks like Brandon Gonzalez, he's more than likely going to be eliminated. Richard Johnson will probably be eliminated, as they're both running not well enough to move themselves up and move somebody else out. Richard Johnson 39th right now on the scoring monitor, and then of course Tim Walsh in 36th. So it looks like Walsh, Johnson, and Gonzalez, those are at least 3 of the 4 that we know are going to be out of this championship hunt after today. The question is, though, who's that 4th driver going to be? Will it be Daly, will it be Cittadino, or will it be Cody Lamas? Let's actually jump back and find the 48, see if he's been able to make any progress up towards the front. There he is, trying to reel in James Qualls and Brandon Gonzalez. He's currently scored in the 22nd position. John Cittadino is currently scored in 36. That is a total of 14 spots. And like I said, Lamas came into this race only 14 spots behind John Cittadino. So right now the two of them would actually be tied, and it looks like we're going to have pit stops again. Like I said, I didn't know if they were going to be able to make it the rest of the way or not, but apparently they are not going to be able to. Lawler is in, and Dollarton, I believe, will take the lead. Lawler, Norman, all coming in. The drivers that stayed out 1 extra lap are going to stay out 1 extra lap again. Chris Dollarton, the highest running of those drivers, now the leader. If you're Chris Dollarton, do you risk it? Do you risk it and maybe stay out a couple extra laps? We do know for certain, based on Ryan Acosta, that you can make it a little over 12 laps on fuel. These drivers came to pit road on lap 11, I believe it was, coming on to lap 12. So that'd only be about half a lap more on fuel that they'd have to rely on. Let's see if Dollarton will roll the dice. Doesn't look like it. Looks like he's indicating he's coming to pit road. Chris Washer, he's coming in, as is William Duncan, as is Dylan Poteet. Cole Daly, though, is going to stay out. Very interesting strategy here, but why not go for a Hail Mary? Cole Daly is going to stay out here in the 88, and this could help gain him some valuable positions on track and may end up putting the battle between Cody Lamas and John Cittadino. The leader is Ryan Acosta now in the 16. Now we know that Ryan made it just a little over 12 laps on fuel. Will he try and stretch it here? Next time by is the white flag. Will he be pitting, or will he try and stretch it? Why not try and stretch it? Ryan Acosta's all but basically locked himself up a spot in the chase anyway and into the next round because of the great runs he's had in the last 2 weeks. Now, if he ends up winning this race, he not only completely locks himself into the next round, but he also would get 3 bonus points, which would tie him and Jessica Shelton for the #1 seed in the next round of the chase. And he is not coming to pit road. He's going to risk it and try it one more time. Looks like that car is actually shifting left to right there, trying to get a little bit extra fuel into the fuel intake down this straightaway. We'll see if he can make it around one more time. Ryan Acosta, his only win this season, coming at, I'm trying to remember what the track was called, and I, for some reason, am not being able to pull it in. I think it was Manassas. Yes, Manassas was what it was called. He's trying to pick up his 2nd win of the season. So far, in 2 chase races, we've had 1 chaser go to victory lane. We're about to maybe make it 2 for 3 chase races with chasers winning. And that car might be out of fuel. No, it's not. He picked it back up here in turn 3 and 4. Now he kind of rolled out of the throttle. I think he can coast now. He's going to be able to make it. but he's going to mash the throttle down the front straightaway. Ryan Acosta plays fuel strategy perfectly here today. Only one pit stop, and he's going to make it to the end on fuel, winning here today at Indianapolis. Ryan Acosta, his second win of the season, and locks himself up into the next round of the chase for the championship. Everybody else had to make it on a total of 2 stops, but Ryan Acosta, with fuel conservation, only had to make 1 pit stop back on the ending of lap number 12 and went the rest of the race on 1 tank of fuel and ends up picking up the victory here today. He still, I think, is under power. He might be out of fuel now. Yeah, I think he's out of fuel. So he stretched it just enough. Like I said, I thought he was about a half lap to the good, and it was down the back straightaway that car suddenly started losing power, and it is coasting now. He is out of fuel, but Ryan Acosta, that dry car, will come to pit road and will turn the left-hander to victory lane. So Ryan Acosta will pick up the win here today. Great victory there for that team. And as I said, second of the season, and he had a 25-point advantage or 25-second advantage over second place, which turns out to be Michael Norman. Jacob Lawler will finish in third. Fourth place for Charles Jackson. Great run for him. And Danny Wells completes top 5. 3 chasers finish in the top 5 here today. That's certainly a far cry from last week when only 3 chasers finished inside the top 10 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And then you look at the rest of the finishers. You got a couple more chasers there in the top 10 as well. Anthony McCurry in 6th. Stephen Pollard the 3rd, the pole sitter. He'll get a solid run of 7th. Sean Galligan in 8th. He'll move into the next round. And Austin LaPlante, who came in as the bubble driver in that critical 12th spot in points, well, he won't be there after today. He moves into the next round with a solid run of 9th. And the top 10 streak continues for Chris Dollerton as he gets 10th here today. Now it gets down to the critical stuff. I don't know if Cole Daly stayed out or not. Did Daly stay out? He didn't. He finished in dead last. But Cody Lamas finished in 36th, which means that Lamas may not have passed either Cole Daly or John Cittadino in the standings. Daly, as we said, dead last, but he finished only 6 spots behind Lamas, and he had about a, roughly 23-point advantage over Lamas. So Daly, I think, did survive, even with a dead last finish. He survives to get in. Now, as far as Cittadino, he finished ahead of Lamas. Cittadino finishing out the day in, where was the 72? 32nd. Not a good run, but it will be enough for him to move in. So the 4 drivers that I believe, I'm going to just confirm this. You see Tim Walsh 37th, Cody Lamas 36th, Richard Johnson in 41st, and Brandon Gonzalez, who needed basically to win to get in, 25th. So the 4 drivers that came in 13th through 16th in the points coming into today's race are going to be the 4 drivers that are eliminated from the first round of the chase for the championship. Tim Walsh, Cody Lamas, Richard Johnson, and the defending champion, Brandon Gonzalez, are all eliminated from competing for the final season Snickers Cup Series chase for the championship, which means that the points heading next week, you'll have Jessica Shelton and Ryan Acosta tied atop the point standings with their 1 wins apiece here in the last 2 weeks. And then the other drivers that will move into the next round include Sean Galligan, James Qualls, Cole Daly, Dougie Shears, Jacob Lawler, Dylan Poteet, Danny Wells, John Cittadino, Trent Dunham, and Austin LaPlante. So our first elimination race is over. 4 drivers are eliminated: Walsh, Lamas, Richard Johnson, Brandon Gonzalez. Next week, we're going to start up round number 2, the first race of round 2, as we continue on the eliminations here before we get to our final 4 at the season finale at Auto Club. So congratulations to Ryan Acosta on fuel strategy. He wins his 2nd race of the season here today at Indianapolis. If you guys enjoyed today's race, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We'll show you now your full official official results from today's event, as well as your overall points, your rookie points, and your chase points, and we'll also show you the reformatted points for next week's next round in the chase for the championship. As you've been watching production of the NNSCRA, offline racing at its best. NNSCRA Sports and Gaming channel. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, be sure to give this video a like. If you want to join the crew today, be sure to hit up that subscribe button. And if you want to know what's going on in the world of NNSCRA for news and updates, check out the Facebook and Twitter link down below me. Once again, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. I'm out.